Hey, sports porchers! It's time for the mid-season spectacular. So jump on board for about a half an hour here and join the Hockey Jesus. Time to talk some hockey with the Hockey Jesus. Welcome to the porch, people. Come on in. We're gathering as the porch plays the music. All right, sports porchers, welcome to the mid-season spectacular with me, your Hockey Jesus. I'm here going solo. We're here to talk all things Pittsburgh Penguins hockey and how they're doing here the first half and how we're going to be able to pull off a playoff berth for the second half after not making the playoffs last year. It's going to be really important for sports porchers everywhere to gather around and figure out how we can get to this playoffs. So, where are the Penguins now? Right now, they are currently 9th in the East. I know they're sitting, 4th in the Metro, but you got to be in the top 3 positions to get the seeds. Then after that, it's all about points. Right now, the Pittsburgh Penguins have 48 points. They're only 1 point away from Tampa Bay, who currently sits in the 8th and final spot for the playoffs. Look, as we start going down the stretch here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking a lot more about points, who to beat, why it's important. The ever stupid and incredibly dumb loser point always comes into play around this time of season. Actually, I have to confess, since I am the Hockey Jesus, that I thought this was the All-Star break. Technically, it's not, but I've never seen where the Pittsburgh Penguins basically have 5 days off in a row, kind of mid-season like this. It's kind of weird. Like I just assumed that it was going to be the All-Star break, but actually the All-Star break, they play 4 more games. They're out in the West, Vegas and Arizona. They come home to play Florida and Montreal, and then they get a little bit of break for the All-Star game. So it's actually the first weekend in February, the All-Star break is. But so I was a little discombobulated there, but nonetheless, it's still not going to affect my analysis of where I think the Penguins are and where they're going. Look, I did some stat work, and I have to tell you, of the teams that are out of the playoffs now, look, Pittsburgh Penguins only have 113 goals against. And you say, that means nothing to me. I don't look at these goals against. Well, I can tell you that their goals against is second of all teams that are in the playoff, basically in the playoff hunt. I've put everybody in there except for I don't have Ottawa in the playoff hunt. I do have Buffalo in there, New Jersey's in there. I don't have another team. Oh, Columbus. I don't think they're going to be there at the end of the season. So I didn't put them in the analysis because I'm only looking at teams who are in the hunt or basically already in the playoff spot. Already in the playoff spot, by the way, would be the Rangers, Boston, Florida, the hated Philadelphia Flyers, Carolina Hurricanes, Toronto, Detroit, and like I said, Tampa Bay is currently sitting in that last spot. But if you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins at 113, only the Florida Panthers have less goals against. And let's just talk about the goalie situation. At the beginning of the season, I said, somebody's got to become the alpha. It's got to be one or the other. I think I might have been a little bit wrong there. I think that Needle-Nose Ned, Mr. Nedeljkovic, he's really come on and has really pushed Jari to keep that number 1 position. I think at times Jari's the number 1 guy. I also think at times that Ned is the number 1 guy. It's hard to really know who's going to be good on a given night. But one thing about Jari is, right from the bat if he's going to be terrible. And that could pose problems down the line. But look, their goals against have been spectacular. Where's their goals against? Right here. Pittsburgh's goals against 916. The only team that has a better save percentage is Boston at 918. So you cannot fault the goalie situation that's happening right now. The goalie situation has been pretty golden for the Penguins. Their goals against have been a lot lower than I was expecting. And that's really what's keeping them in the race right now. And honestly, I think that's got a good chance of continuing. I don't see Jari, barring, you always say barring injuries, because anytime at any place, anybody could get an injury, right? But barring any injuries, I think those two are going to be a good tandem and better than average going down the stretch here in the second half of the season. So I really like the goalie situation. I'm very surprised that the defensive pairing has allowed the goalie situation to thrive. Look, at the beginning of the year when we brought Carlson in, and you're like, Carlson's got to learn to play with Graves, and Letang and Pettersson going to have to learn to play together. Look, some people think that Pettersson actually should have been an all-star. I don't actually, but I do agree that Pettersson has really learned to play better with both Letang and Carlson when he's had to play with both, much better than Graves has. I would say, I look at these rankings, these grades they'll give players. Like, somebody gave Graves an F. I don't think he's that bad, but I do think that he needs to figure out. I mean, the good thing about Graves is he's got good awareness on the ice. He has that long stick, and he can poke pucks away from players coming down the ice. That's good. But he's got to learn to play a little bit more physical in the front, and he's got to learn how to get the puck out of his end just a little bit better. His skating skills aren't great, so he's not going to be able to skate it out like Letang or Carlson does. Frankly, a lot of people don't. Carlson and Letang are the only ones who really can make that happen. But I can tell you that if Graves can get it together, that defensive pairing will be a lot better. And I am not a big fan of Pierre-Olivier Joseph, POJ. I don't think he belongs in the starting lineup. I'd rather see Shea in there, Ryan Shea, who played at the beginning of the year and hasn't seen a lick of ice in the last 15 games. I'd rather see him in there, but they're going to give him a shot. Look, Ruhwedel's been pretty good until John Ludwig comes back. He's still on IR, so he's going to be out for a little while yet. I don't know his injury, upper body injury, so you can decide what that means. Elbow, shoulder, lung, heart, who knows? I mean, upper body injury could be anything with these guys. But until he gets back, they lose a lot of, I hate to use the term physicality. They lose that physical ability of somebody to be able to knock guys into the corner and just take pucks away from them through brute strength. They don't have that on the ice now, and that could be a problem until they get him back, because they're going to be playing against the likes of Dallas again, and Winnipeg, who's a lot faster. The Kings. These are bigger teams, and that could be a problem for them in that situation. So hopefully John Ludwig gets back soon, and they can shore up their defensive pairs. But Ruhwedel's been fine. But I think they're going to have to keep plugging new people into that bottom six pairing. And let's hope, once again, this is barring any injuries. If something happens to the top pair, you can't replace a Letang. You can't replace a Carlson. You probably could replace Graves. I mean, but you don't want anybody to get injured at this point, and that's why you have so many defense. And that's why it's important probably to keep POJ and not make him any trade bait. Or honestly, his value isn't very good anyway. So his trade value would be very, very minimal. Let's talk about the offense. So here's where the Penguins really need to pick it up. Look, right now their goals for of the 14 teams that I think are in the Eastern playoffs, they rank 11th in goals for. I did not see this coming, especially look, Sid's off to a great start. 26 goals, 46 points. I mean, let's go. I mean, that first line is incredible. I think him and Jake, Jake's also got 46 points. He's got a little bit more assists, a little less goals. And, they keep bouncing who's on the right wing there. Sometimes it's Raquel, sometimes it's Rust. it doesn't really seem to matter. So I think whoever needs help on that secondary, on that second line, I think that's what Sully's been doing. So I think that first line, they've been incredible. Sid's been carrying the team at times, but they're going to have to get some better secondary scoring. So who's on the second line now? Gino, clearly everybody knows Gino's on the second line. He does have 36 points. He's played in all 42 games. I guess that's pretty good for him. The thing that I'd like to see more with Gino is a little bit more consistency. He really just takes games off, and he takes parts of games off entirely. And I just hate that. I was, by the way, if you listen to me on the Sports Porch, I do an analysis after every game, and I said there's got to be something wrong with the Pens app. There's no way Gino didn't have a shot on goal 2 games in a row. And that is true. He definitely had shots on goal in the last game that they played against Seattle. I think he had 3 or 4 shots on goal. So I either was looking at the app wrong or said it wrong, or maybe I was thinking Gino is garbage. Gino's far from garbage. I think Gino is going to be great. I think he needs to get Riley Smith back and healthy. Riley Smith is his status right now is out. It's not even IR. It's just plain old out. That means he probably broke his collarbone. If you saw that hit, oh, hey, Brad, how's it going? I see Minnesota 1, Tampa Bay nothing. Yeah, I can't believe they're still playing games. I totally botched up that All-Star break thing. But, hey, the Pens are at the midseason, close enough to the midseason point, so that's why we're here. Thanks for that update, though, Brad. Appreciate it. And I think that DOC, Drew O'Connor on that second line has been a good boost of confidence for Drew O'Connor. I think he can be a good player. Being up there with Gino and showing that he can score, really important. I think putting him on that second power play also is a good idea. And I think Russ adds an element to that second line right now that's really making Drew O'Connor go. So I think it's an okay line until Riley Smith gets back. My guess is he's not going to be back probably until middle of February, maybe the end of February. Look, by that time, you're talking about the trade deadline. Trade deadline's right after the March 7th game against Washington. So I think it's going to be important to get him back by the trade deadline. So you're kind of adding, what they say, you're adding, I don't even know how to say it right. You're not adding somebody by trading somebody. You're getting somebody back from the injury bug. So that'll be good to get him back. I think that'll make that line go better. Look, until then, the third line's really, really been struggling. Lars Eller and Puustinen don't seem to have too much synergy. They don't seem to be able to get it together. I like Puustinen. He's got 7 points in 17 games. Just to put that into perspective, Jeff Carter has 7 points in 36 games. So it's clear that Puustinen definitely can score points. Most of his are by assist, by the way, and you've got nobody else who can finish on that line. So I don't know that putting him up there on that line makes sense. I don't know. They're going to have to figure out something on that third line. I actually think they should probably bring up Sam Poulin. They put on waivers Zohorna. I think he cleared today. But either way, Zohorna's not going to be up there. And he was okay. He was doing okay, but he hasn't finished. He hasn't scored a goal in like 7 games or 12 games since he last scored. So I think it made a lot of sense to send him down. Bring somebody else up, though. They have to bring somebody else up. And I think the person they need to bring up is Sam Poulin. They got to give him a shot. This kid has been down there for so long. He's lighting it up down there. I think it's time to give him a little shot, see what he can do, maybe either on the third line. Look, they got Colin White on that left-hand side. He's only played 1 game, so I can't make any judgment call about him. And the fourth line, look, I've seen grades on this fourth line go as low as Fs, D minuses, D pluses in some cases. It is true they don't score enough points. When they do score, the Penguins are basically undefeated. So when the fourth line scores, it really makes a big difference. And I think Carter's been okay. I mean, maybe I was dissing him a little bit there for only having 7 points in 36 games. But he doesn't get a lot of ice time. He's out there killing penalties, and he's out there for faceoffs on some cases. Look, Nola Chari on the faceoff circle is incredible, and he's winning a lot of draws. In fact, the Pittsburgh Penguins are number one. Or number one, is that right? Yeah, number one in faceoff percentage right now in the Eastern Conference. Pretty impressive. They sit at 55.1. Next on the list, I think, are the Rangers at 54.5. So it's always really close. Like some of these are like exactly the same. There's a lot of like 51.3s. I don't know why. That seemed to be a popular number for face-off wins. Maybe because people want to be on the positive side, not the negative side. So I think that having Achari in there to win face-offs, good. But what do you do with the face-offs is really the important thing. And that leads me to the power play. I've got to take a drink of this tea before I talk about the power play, or I will lose my voice. Yep. So let's get there. Let's go to the power play. Look, power play, 11th. It's only the 11th of the 14th. There are actually worse power plays out there. And you want to know whose power play is worse than the Pittsburgh Penguins? That's right. The Philadelphia Flyers. The Philadelphia Flyers power play sits at 13.3. Is that right? No, it's worse than that. It's 12.2. And the Penguins are at 13.7. The Caps are also behind them, too, at just at 13.3. This is when I did this statistics the other day. They may have changed a little bit between now and then. But the bottom line is those power plays are horrible. And the fact that Philadelphia is in second place in the Metro with a power play clicking at 12.2%, that's pretty incredible for them. They do it a little bit different than we do it, but they do it on the penalty kill. They're first in the penalty kill, so they may allow a lot of power plays, but their penalty kill is really good. And it also does a really good job of scoring on their power play. I mean, their penalty kill. Flyers are number one in that category. So what's my point here? My point is that the Penguins have some really good statistics. My apologies, sports porchers. I'm getting over a cold, as you could probably tell, and I've got this cough, so I've got to mute the mic every now and then so I don't cough in your head. So, what do the Penguins have to do? Excuse me again. The Pittsburgh Penguins basically right now sit at 48 points. What they have to do is they have to find a way to get to 98 points. I think that's the magic number. Looking at it last year, 92 points got you in. And I think it's going to need a little bit more this year. So I think in order to do that, what do they have to do? If you sit at 48 points now, really what you have to do is you can't go on any really long losing streaks. And looking at the results, the Penguins haven't been on a 3-game losing streak since back in October. So they've done a pretty good job of, by the way, I should say point streaks, because they have had four loser games in a row. Remember when they played Philadelphia and Tampa Bay and Florida? They went on that Florida trip. But they did get 2 loser points out of that. And unfortunately, that's what you're going to have to look at when you're going through the season. You're going to have to be like, well, you got to gain a point somewhere. And so what's going to have to happen with the Penguins is they're just going to have to continue to get points and not go on long streaks without gaining no points at all. That sounds easy to do, but it's really kind of hard. I mean, I'm looking at their schedule in the second half, and I think the big push for them will be this big home push from February 18th to February 25th. They play 4 games at home. They play the Kings, which are a really good team in the West. Then they play the Islanders, the Canadians, and then Philadelphia. Look, that's going to make or break what they do, I think, at the trade deadline. If they can win those games or most of those games, let's say they win 3 out of 4 there, I think they're going to be in good shape because then after that, they got to go on the road. They're heading out west after that. They're going to Vancouver, Seattle, Calgary, Edmonton. And they actually do fare better in the West, believe it or not, when they're on the road. I don't think they're going to sweep the West. I actually have them only winning 1 game on the West Coast games. For some reason, they seem to have Calgary's number, and who knows? Seattle's not that good. They could also win that game. But I think these are these are the types of games when you think about the season coming up. You think of it in chunks. At least that's what I do when I look at the games. And I think that's really going to be what they do at the trade deadline. I actually don't see them making a trade at the deadline unless Riley Smith's out long term. There's this talk about I have to address this. There's this talk about Jake Gensel getting traded. I just don't believe those talks. I understand why you would trade Jake Gensel, but I don't understand why you would trade him now. If you think that this team is going to make the playoffs, and by the way, what's the number? I think they need to have 72 points. They got to have over 70 points by that March 7th game, after that March 7th game, in order for them not to be trading people at the trade deadline. I think if they're there, they definitely have a shot at making the playoffs for sure. It gets hard. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we play a lot of teams towards the end of the season, like in our division. And that's where we've struggled in the past. And I think that's something that the Penguins as an organization is going to have to address. But as long as you're getting good goaltending every night, I think they'll find a way to get the goals they need. And that's what they really need to focus on. Look, I talked about the power play briefly. I've said this 1,000 times, so I'm only going to say it one more time. The power play needs to find a point person. They need to put 2 people on the wings, 1 person behind the net, or 2 people near the net. Ideally, 1 person right in the freaking crease, and then 1 person that pops out to take. It could be that person in the crease to take that shot in the slot. And you got to have somebody who can take it as a one-timer. Gino has not been doing it on the wing. And you know what? Whoever they have on the other wing, whether it's Sid or Gino or even Rusty, I've seen do this, they'll pop out to the blue line and they'll get like a running start so that they can gain momentum to go to the net. I've never seen any other NHL team do this that way. They need to abandon that philosophy. Hopefully, they're working on that this week, and we're going to see a brand new power play. But that's what it's going to take. If they're going to get more goals for, it's going to have to come through special teams, and that means the power play. I don't think they're going to get a lot of shorties, although I do like Russ playing the penalty kill minutes, but I don't like Russ playing the penalty kill and also being on that second power play. I think that's too many minutes for Russ. But you know what? If he's going to play the second, and I think that's why they have him on the second line, I think that's probably what they're doing. More special teams for Rusty. He is a threat, definitely, to score on a penalty kill. Absolutely, 100%. I think he's probably their biggest threat. Drew O'Connor maybe a little bit too, but not the greatest. Look, the other thing the Penguins do is they shoot the hell out of the puck. I think they're let's see, shots. They're actually tied for second with shots. So they definitely shoot the puck. They just need to get a little bit more accuracy. And I actually would like to see them shoot more one-timers as opposed to, stopping the puck and then getting a wrister when the goalie's already in position. I think the surprise shots are probably more important than just shots as a whole. So, sports porchers, this is what I'm saying. The Pittsburgh Penguins definitely can be a playoff team. They're only 1 point out of it at half. And, when I looked at them at the beginning of the season, I definitely had some things wrong. I thought they'd score more goals. I didn't think that the goals against would be as low as it is. So that's a big surprise in a positive way. So I don't think the talent has changed to allow them to score more goals. Carlson, I thought maybe would be more of a goal scorer or more of a playmaker, and he will be that if you let him be that way on the power play. And I think that's probably the best thing to do. Just let Carlson be the playmaker on the power play and get a better structure where you got more guys near the net. You're going to be picking up pucks. The other team's going to get tired. You're going to get secondary chances, and that's what it's going to be. The other thing I said that they need to do, and they haven't really found this person yet, is they need to find somebody in the bottom six to be that goal scorer. I think they actually have Drew O'Connor available to do that. I thought he played great on the third line. And I also think that Pustonen is another great asset down there. And if they bring a Pool in, I think between the three of them, I think they might do enough. But they got to get more. They got to get more offensive zone time for the fourth line. They got to get more points from the third and fourth line. If the Penguins are going to get any more secondary scoring, that's probably going to be the best thing that can happen to the Penguins in the second half. Well, there it is, sports porchers. It's your hockey spectacular. I'm optimistic that the Penguins can do this. Look, of the teams that are in here, who do I think are pretenders? This is a good question. And let's finish on this note. I actually think Tampa Bay is a pretender. Look, their goals against right now, their differential, they're a -3, which means they give up more goals than they actually get by 3 goals. I think they're a pretender. Philadelphia, they could still be there. Detroit probably will be there too, but I think these are the teams they're going to be battling against. Toronto, I think Toronto is definitely a top 3 in the Atlantic, so I don't think they're going to be battling them for that wild card spot if that's where they end up. Look, they've already beaten Carolina, so they've shown they could beat Carolina. They've kind of played even with Philadelphia, and they've played even with the Caps. I think this team definitely is right on that bubble with all these other teams. They've already beaten the Islanders twice, which is pretty amazing because the Islanders have usually had their numbers. It's going to come down to, beating Montreal, team that's going to be out of it. They play them 3 times. If they can they play them 3 times. That's right, 3 times in the second half. If they can beat them all 3 times and, they can take care of the likes of the Senators and they don't trip up on these, as our technical director likes to say, trap games. If they don't trip up on those, I think they'll easily make the playoffs. They won't be playing on that last day when they play the Islanders on the Isle for a playoff spot. Hopefully between April 11th, 13th, and 15th, they're clinching a playoff berth and not having to worry about doing that on the island. So my prediction for the Pittsburgh Penguins are, I think Sidney Crosby remains in the MVP candidate talk for the remainder of the season. I don't see him slowing down, once again, barring any injuries. I don't see them trading Jake Gensel. I don't see that that's going to be possible. And I see the Pittsburgh Penguins with the power play where the likes of Carlson is just making unbelievable plays, and that's what we'll be talking about on the porch. Thank you so much for enjoying the spectacular. I hope you got a little bit out of it. If you did, leave me a little comment. Let me know you liked it. And I'll be back Saturday night because the Pittsburgh Penguins are in Las Vegas. My boss is actually out there to watch the game. So I think I think it'll be interesting to see what happens out there. I expect them to take either one of those games, the Vegas game or the Arizona game. God, I wish I was going to that Arizona game, but hey, sports porchers, you know where you can get your hockey talk. It's right here on the porch. Come back and get it after every game. Hear me, the Hockey Jesus. So until then, sports porchers and Pittsburgh Penguins fans, keep the faith and let's go Pens.